alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to Alive After Reading. I'm Tim Niederreiter, and with me today is a returning guest. Well, returning from the depths of time, but he's kind of an influence on my podcasting, and he's a fellow podcaster from the Dead Robot Society podcast, and he's an author. He's got a few books out there, in the Empire Bones series and some other stuff. Welcome to the podcast, Terry Mixon.
Thanks for inviting me on. I thought you were saying I was back from the dead, and I thought that was very exciting.
How does it feel to be reanimated, Terry?
It feels like regular life, unfortunately. So that's not a positive experience.
Unfortunate. That's a negative way to start off, but okay. So, is there anything I missed? I tried to do a brief overview, but you got a fair few series out there, especially Empire Bones is pretty big, and you got a few
Empire
other
Bones.
Ones. Yeah.
You put me on the spot there. Now I'm sitting here going, I wonder how many books I actually have out. Somewhere around 24. If you look at the co-written stuff, maybe 5 more than that. So yeah, quite a few. Yeah, apparently I've written something.
That's a boatload of books, dude. Well, I mean, not compared to some authors, but who's comparing? I mean, it's still a significant chunk of text you got there.
Here's my advice to you and everybody that's listening. If you're writing, never, ever compare yourself to anyone else, whether it's quality, whether it's number, whether it's anything else. That way lies madness. Just compare yourself to yourself.
That is quality advice. Yes, indeed. It's hard for me to compare myself to myself because I'm still working out who that is.
Just get up in the morning, look in the mirror, and go, loser. And then you'll just have to do better than that guy in the mirror.
Oh, hey, good advice again.
That's probably terrible advice.
It's okay. I mean, but it's pretty easy to do better than the guy you see in the morning because by the time you wake up, you get your coffee or whatever your chosen stimulants are, you're gonna be in a better position to do anything than the guy who just rolled out of bed.
Yep. The other thing you said, I am a podcaster, one of the hosts of the Dead Robot Society writing podcast. And weirdly enough, I think we were talking about that just the other day. I think I've been on that show for 12 years now, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
It's been over a decade. I think it's closer to 12 than 11.
Holy cow! Now there's a car alarm going off. Okay, so this podcast has already gotten very weird, but.
It's the alarm, that's telling me that I'm lying right there. That is your truth detector. It has gone off.
You heard it here first, folks. Terry Mixon is older than he said. He is an older podcaster than he said.
I am the reanimated podcaster, back from the dead.
That's fitting. I know J.R. Handley has said that the title of this podcast sounds like it should be a horror podcast. I'm like, well, I do have some horror authors on from time to time, but. I don't necessarily see being alive as being, horrific.
It makes it easier to talk to people if they're alive.
Exactly. That's the whole point. It was also just a play on words. It's live, but the show isn't live, so it's alive. Anyway, whatever.
It's the tape-delayed version of live.
Yes, and we're channeling a little bit of how the DRS feels to me, actually. It's very, we're just going to go off on a tangent now and talk about what the show's called.
We channel chaos on the Dead Robot Society. Yes. So if I drag you off of your nice, ordered path, my apologies now.
Oh, the path isn't that orderly. I wish, maybe. But, so you just came out with another book in your main series. Is that correct?
I did. Yeah. Victory on Terra.
Well, is that a spoiler?
12 books in a series.
12 books, nice. Yeah, are we ending an arc here, or is this kind of still just the middle of the...
We're ending a series of books that took place at Terra.
Okay, so that, in a way, that would be like an arc of 3 or 4 books kind of thing?
Yeah, it's getting there and getting what they needed and getting away again took far longer than I initially expected when I thought about how I was going to write this. I figured 2 books. It ended up being 4.
Oh, boy. Well, sometimes you can't. It's like a certain green Muppet said. Oh wait, shouldn't say Muppet. A green puppet has said in a certain book by an author shall not be named. You never know how much trouble the job is going to be.
The mouse is going to be looking for you.
Oh, I don't care. I don't care. They'll never find me. I'm very tiny. I'm smaller than a mouse. Much smaller than that particular mouse. But anyway, that was a pretty good. Just that first line has stuck with me because it's so silly. And at first I thought it was like, this is obnoxious. But anyway, never mind. We're not going there. That's your co-host Paul Eller Cooley's indiscretion, shall we say?
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
That shall no longer be named. So anyway, man, geez, everything is going wrong today as far as the environment. I should close this window. And I know this is not the level of production most podcasters want to hear, but it is now springtime, and that's what happens. Most podcasts. Your
listeners won't care.
They don't.
They just want to. They want to hear you. They don't care about what your production values are. As long as they're not terrible, you're going to be fine.
Sometimes even if they are terrible. But anyway, so Terry, let's go back to talking about books and stuff, because the weather is the last refuge of the boring, or something like that. I think that was Mark Twain. So you've got Victory on Terra out now, and this series is big, epic space opera. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
It covers a wide swath of the universe in its scope. So, yeah, I'd say that this is definitely a big-scale space opera. Although, considering the small amount of characters that get point of view time, it's focused in pretty tight.
Oh, that's good to hear, actually. I've only read the first few because I'm just kind of ADHD reader as it goes. But and you had like 2 points of view in those books, I think, the first couple.
I think the most I ever got up to was 5, and that was painful and juggling, so I think I capped myself at 4 at this point.
Yeah, the book I'm writing now is 4, and even that feels like a lot. I mean, my favorite way to write a book is probably 1, but that gets kind of tricky sometimes. Especially if the books sometimes, like...
It absolutely can be tricky. It's good having at least 2, because then you can hand off back and forth between the characters when one hits a stopping point, and you still need to have somebody doing something.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I think it's funny because my longest novel, which incidentally is also a very bizarre space opera of its own kind, more bizarre in setting than yours, but probably not quite as weird in what actually goes down as far as events, perhaps, at times. But, or at least maybe not as varied, because obviously it's 1 book instead of 12 books. But...
I've got some weird stuff happening. You never know.
I don't know. I mean, some weird stuff did happen. I mean, there was... never mind. It's a good series. People should read it. Find out for themselves how weird it is. But this book was like 170,000 words long. Some huge book. And it only had 1
big for a space opera.
Yeah, I know. Originally, I was going to split it into 3 books. And then I thought, no, but then there's cliffhangers. We're not doing that. So this book's going to be a little long. And as long as I don't charge a whole lot for it, I think it'd be okay. Yeah.
Will the protagonist survive? Tune in next week.
Yeah, with ebooks I can make it happen though, because I did originally release it as 3 shorter novels because it's long enough it could be, but that they were a little too short and a little not conclusive enough until the 3rd book. So there you go.
I don't know about shortness. I think that people are a bit more accepting of having shorter novels as long as they've got all the necessary pieces parts.
That's a fair point. These ones, especially the second one, did not. It was like, oh, there's no beginning or ending now.
Yeah, bridge novels are tough.
Yeah. So, yeah, you just said bridge novels. Could you tell us, I mean, have you written any bridge novels in your time?
I have, and it was an unfortunate decision on my part, one that I wish I had not made. One of the books that I wrote, I was getting into the 80s and 90,000s, and I was like, I'm not going to get to the end of this story. I've got to find a place to cut it off. And I probably should have just written a much bigger book and dealt with finding a more natural stopping place. Lesson learned.
Fair enough. Yeah. I definitely encountered that because I tried to do a couple, I tried to do a series of novellas just to get more work out there. And that just, it didn't blow up in my face so much as it kind of petered out. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. And I thought, I'm not really a short books kind of guy. I think I'm going to be writing longer fiction, especially because my favorite genre is epic fantasy. That's what I'm currently writing.
You can write a doorstop in epic fantasy and you'll be all right.
Yeah, definitely. Now I'm actually just like, how many words can you put in an Amazon paperback? Never mind.
You can have, with white pages, you can have 800 and some odd pages. I'm not sure how many words that is. I know that I can have a 3-book omnibus and still fit.
It's like I think you can put like 250,000 words in one book, depending on your spacing.
Yeah.
It seems about right anyway. Maybe more than that. If you were able to put 3 books in one volume, that sounds like...
I go with minimal spacing to make those work because otherwise they wouldn't fit.
Yeah, you're walking the line with 3 novels in one. So, yeah, and now now that's something we don't necessarily need to go any further into because
we've went inside baseball now.
Exactly. Like how many pages can you fit in a book? That sounds kind of rhetorical, don't you think? Sounds like a riddle almost.
Some people take it as a challenge.
Absolutely. I mean, I have a Brandon Sanderson book around here somewhere. It's 1,000 pages long.
Have you seen how many words that man can put into a book?
Yeah, I think that was his longest one. Maybe wait, the second one's even longer in that series. It's 1,200 pages or something insane like that.
I think that there's one book of his out that just came out fairly recently that has 500,000 words in it.
Oh no, that's those ones. Yeah, that's
Holy
that series.
Holy cow, that is huge!
The first book had 400,000 words. It was basically 4 novels worth of words. And I thought to myself, that's insane. Who would read that? Well, I read it.
I've read some of his stuff, but it's like Mistborn, which is much smaller in scope because this is before he discovered that he didn't need to worry about editing out content to make things fit.
Well, the story, and not to relate it. I mean, I have heard it. I've listened to some of his stuff in the past, and I've actually met him once a few years. Well, it was a while ago now. But
I talk trash about him, and it's not meant to be, personal trash. It's just general trash.
No, absolutely. I don't take issue with that. I got my own problems sometimes with people in the world.
He won some awards that the Dead Robot Society should have won. You got
when they were having the podcast
award. So I have always talked trash about Brandon Sanderson. He doesn't know who I am, so that's
for
fine.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, there's so much. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, and Stephen King probably doesn't know who Brandon Sanderson is. Maybe. I mean, it's that kind of thing.
It's fun to have a nemesis that doesn't know you're there.
Yeah, it's it's the opposite of an invisible enemy. You're an invisible antagonist or something. Invisible protagonist. Anyway.
Sure.
There's an idea. But what I was going to say is that he's actually... Did you know he's actually not a very fast writer? Have you heard that?
I can't imagine how he could write 500,000 word novel then and still
He just writes a ton. Like, his words per hour is very slow. It's like 500.
I can get that. The more time in the chair that you spend in the chair, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, he just doesn't like. I mean, like for full disclosure, when I met him, I was at a writing retreat that him and Writing Excuses were putting on, and we barely ever saw him. He was too busy writing. He didn't even have time to come out for the retreat, which was kind of weird, but whatever. I mean, he knows where his bread is buttered, right? I mean, perfect sense to me.
You got to keep writing if you want to keep paying the bills.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, I mean, not to get too, well, not bills, but, speaking of writing, what's your process been like lately? I mean,
my process for the last novel was messed up. I'm in the process of redoing my process because it changes every single book. At the current time, I've been using Dragon Naturally Speaking to write with for 4 or 5 years, but the last couple of books I've been doing the dictation while actually walking around the neighborhood. And that's been more challenging getting clean copy out of that than I had expected. So this last book took maybe twice as long to clean it up because I didn't bother training Dragon to recognize that I was screwing things up. And I wrote the book in 3 weeks, yet it took forever to get the damn thing edited because I wasn't training. I could have saved myself a lot of work if I'd have done this in the process.
Our two peoples tell the same story. That's exactly what I went through. I mean, I think what I went through is worse because I have less experience dictating. I only started last summer. But I dictated one novel. Oh, that went well. I'll just dictate another novel immediately. And I dictated 80,000 words that all kind of had to get scrapped. And I had 10,000 left over. But yeah, the editing speed editing has taken a lot longer. But lately, now I've been dragging training the dragon. I mean, sorry, God, dragging the training. The train.
Yeah, that's what you need to do. Drag that training.
I'm actually
sounds like a hate crime right there, buddy.
It does sound pretty bad. I taught the dragon a bunch of the fantasy words and stuff because this is an epic fantasy book. And but if you don't mind me asking, how do you know how many words you get regularly when you dictate nowadays?
I know that the morning walk takes me about 45 minutes to do, and I'll get somewhere around 2,500 words in that time frame.
That's not bad.
It is. Then the process that I go through then is I come back, I import the audio file into Dragon, then I read through it one time to fix the things that Dragon screwed up so that I can train it at that point. After that, I go ahead and I give it an actual read through where I'm changing things to suit myself, because the read through for fixing things, I don't change anything. I just correct words that are wrong.
Oh, that's
the
smart.
next read through. The next read through is me rewriting. It's not really rewriting it. It's me editing it, and then I'll print it out and do the same thing with a red line. I do that for each chapter, and then when I'm done with it, I'll go ahead and I will read through one last time to make sure that my continuity is good and make any final tweaks to it.
Wow.
So I'm not quite hitting a chapter a day. It's ending up being like 3/4 of a chapter a day. I think I could do more, but I keep getting myself distracted doing other things.
Hey, I mean, if it works, it works. But also, it's not doing all the editing in the same day. Pretty much all the editing, right? Like most of it.
A good chunk of it.
Yeah, huge. We're not going to make up a number, but a large portion of the editing in one day. That's pretty impressive, actually. I know a lot of authors say it's difficult for them to do the editing the day of the writing.
It's not hard. It's a different kind of difficult. I think next book, now that I've got Dragon trained, I may go ahead and dictate all of it, and I'll do the fixing read through when I import the text to correct any actual transcription errors. But I think I may do the editing pass after I write it, the next book. It's an experiment right now to see, this is working better than the last book. I'm maybe 40% of the way through Spoils of War, which is a new series. And it's working pretty well, but I think it could be better. I always think it can be better. So
well, hey,
last time I was wrong, maybe next time I'll be right.
And it's always good to keep trying different stuff. My process has never been the same for 2 books. I don't like sit and do the same thing 2 books in a row, which is maybe kind of an issue actually. But I should do more tweaking rather than like, I'm just going to do this book this way. I'm going to write this book like I'm writing an Elric novel, like Michael Moorcock.
When I was dictating Victory on Terra, I took 2 walks in the neighborhood a day, pretty much. So I was getting about 5,000 words a day. So it literally did take me about 3 weeks to get the actual narration done, the dictation done for the book. It's just the editing was a huge pain because I allowed errors into the process. I think I'm going to go back to that and try again. It's in the end, it's going to all be the same amount of time, whether I spend it writing all at once or I spend time editing in the middle of it. It's basically moving sand from one pile to another is still going to be the same amount of sand.
Fair enough. Yeah. There's no, I found, because I just recently switched to dictation, that there's no replacement for dictating as far as speed because it is so much faster than typing for me. But
I couldn't go back to doing it via typing because my brain has now wired itself to dictate, and it is a lot faster than me typing.
Right. I mean, if I was, even in 40 minutes, there's no way I could get 2,500 words typing like you say you do in your walk,
As you claim, Mr. Terry.
No, I didn't mean it like that. No, I meant but I'm just saying, because I found that when I dictate sitting down or just pacing around a house, so I'm not moving as quickly, and there's less wind resistance and stuff, I find I get a lot more words, personally, but I find I get like 4,000 or 5,000 an hour at least, or in about that same time frame. So that's the only reason I said it like that. I'm just thinking. The
reason I have tried doing it while walking is when I dictate, and I'm looking at the screen, it slows me down.
Oh, no,
because I
don't
want to
dictate in
fix
front of the
things.
screen either. I don't dictate
It would
in front
make
of
me
the screen
crazy.
either.
That's how I did all the books before this for the last couple of years, was using my desktop microphone and going straight into Dragon and dictating it right there on the screen. And the speed is maybe 65% of what I get when I'm walking.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't dictate into the computer either anymore. Like I was saying, I dictate into a voice recorder. I sit somewhere not on the computer. But because
Another
I'm
thing
sitting,
that I've
I'm able to
improved
talk
with the
faster.
process is I found that having a really good external microphone makes a big difference.
Yeah, no kidding.
I was holding the handheld recorder, that first book, and recording it straight into the handheld recorder, and it was awful.
Yeah, you should have seen my pit stains after I do that. I'd hold the recorder up to my mouth. I did the same thing last summer. It was like, okay, I'll dictate this book, and after an hour of dictating into a voice recorder that I have to hold up to my mouth, this is not a sight you want to see or smell. Anyway, yeah. Oh, did we have an issue here?
Not that I know of.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were so quiet. I'm like, okay.
I heard you ask part of a question, so I'm seeing if I can get the answer
Okay.
before you get to it.
Oh, you mean you thought I was going to ask what kind of microphone you use?
I was. It sounded like you were going to
Well, I
start
was
answering
going
that.
to. So what kind of microphone do you use?
I haven't actually found it yet. So.
Okay, never mind. I'm trying out this Solid version. I'm just cover for you. I was trying out this. It's a Solid brand lavalier mic. So I clip that onto my collar, and then I hook the other end up to the MP3 player. Well, not MP3 player, the voice recorder. That's what I do now. It's pretty handy. And then I get to pretend like I'm a spy or something, except I'm wearing the lavalier mic on the outside. So, the Mafia's going to catch me in a heartbeat.
I found it. I have a Speechware Flexi Mic single ear carotid microphone.
Okay.
It's pricey. It's $150.
Oh, holy cow.
It literally weighs 2 ounces.
Light. Yeah.
There is nothing to it. Slip it over your ear, and it's like you're not wearing anything as you walk around.
Wow.
And it's pretty
It's
good. It's a lot better than the built-in microphone on the Sony handheld that I use.
Oh, yeah. My microphone is a lot cheaper. The one I'm using is like $15-$20.
I tried one of those, and it was worse than just using the handheld.
The quality I'm getting now is actually really good. So I don't know. Probably varies by brand.
Mileage varies.
Yeah. But I'm sure whatever quality you're getting now is probably better than what I'm getting. At least it should be with that kind of price tag.
It's better. It saves me enough time to where it is more than paid for itself. So that's all that really matters to me.
Hey, that's a good deal. Yeah. It's time. The one thing you can't ever get back.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
As a writer, anything that can save you a little bit of time is worthwhile. It gets the book out faster.
So we've kind of gone through what you're doing for your books lately, your own books. But let me ask: have you been reading or listening to anything? Since I know you're a big audiobook guy.
I am. I'm always listening to something. I'm listening to a lot of lit RPG over the last couple of years. So I've been listening to Awaken Online by Travis Bagwell, Eden's Gate by Edward Brody, and I've also been listening to the Magitech Chronicles by Chris Fox, which is space opera magic stuff.
Space fantasy, yeah. I've read the first one of those, yeah.
I'm about to start book 5 in his 7-book series, so
yeah.
I'm halfway done. Nobody important's really died yet, so I think we're good.
But a lot of people bought it, that's for sure. In the first book, I mean, just not important characters, but tons of. There's a lot. That series isn't like super bleak, but as far as I've read so far,
no, it's not.
Fun.
It's not.
It's good adventurous kind of stuff,
I've got a ridiculous amount of audiobooks in my library, so my to listen to stack is always growing more than I could possibly deal with. What is it? According to Audible right now, what is it? In March, I listened 68 hours and 41 minutes.
Holy cow.
I've already listened almost 40 hours this month, so I listen a lot. I go out walking.
The month's getting close to being over, so.
It is. This has not been a productive month for me. What is it? February is my best current one so far, 106 hours.
Wowee. That's like.
So.
Yeah, geez.
Yeah. Audible tells me that I've listened to 3 months, 5 days, 8 hours, and 11 minutes of audiobooks.
Well, that's kind of stark. I barely listen to any audiobooks. They're just not my style.
Hey, whatever.
But,
whatever
I also have a huge library of print books. I'm like, I need to read these.
I've got 622 titles in my Audible, so wow. I'll never catch up ever.
There you go. That's Audible has run you over, sir.
They get their money's worth out of my platinum membership.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So as for me, I've been I'm still watching The Magicians. I finished season 1. That was pretty cool.
You've got a lot to catch up on.
Yeah,
man.
I know. I just started this year, though.
First season of that show was amazing.
No, it was really, really solid. Yeah, I enjoyed it. What else am I reading? I did finish reading a nonfiction book today, which was Plot Gardening by Chris Fox. So another Chris Fox book on here. Maybe someday.
That man's everywhere.
Yeah, and maybe someday he'll actually be on this podcast. Knock on wood. But anyway, yeah. Other than just his books, which I mean, I'm almost a shill for Chris Fox now. I'm talking about his books all the time because I really like his nonfiction books. And his fiction's not bad either. Let me put it that way.
I've read one of his nonfiction books. I've got the rest of them on my Kindle ready to be read. I attended a in-person writing workshop with him and a bunch of other people in April of last year at Napa. So he's a really great guy.
And he certainly seems that way. I like his YouTube channel a lot. And actually, yeah. Well, the less said about everything else that's going on in the world, the better. But
did you hear he had a Kickstarter for starting a Magitech role-playing game?
Oh, yeah, I did. It's a little outside my price range right now. I'm kind of strapped for cash, but there you go.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying that you should. It was interesting to see him go to that, go create something like that in his universe. I'm watching that with interest to see what happens.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a huge RPG nerd. I love games and all that stuff. And actually, I think the first time we chatted was for my, it ended up on my other podcast, the RPG one.
Could be.
It was a game mastering podcast. I asked you about
yeah, that sounds familiar.
Stuff. Yeah, it was a while ago, so I don't blame you for not remembering details.
I don't remember last week. You're lucky I remember that.
Exactly. Well, yeah, count myself lucky then. But anyway, we're running down on time, so thanks for being on the show, Terry. It's been fun.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on.
It's always fun to chat with podcasting heroes like yourself.
Oh, yeah, I am absolutely not a podcasting hero, but thank you anyway.
Well, you get the reflected light at least. You're like the moon of podcasts.
There we go, the full moon of podcasts. I'll take that.
That's a pretty nice compliment too. Yeah. So anyway, so Terry, where can people find your work and your stuff and yourself online? You
can find me on Facebook. And I am also on Amazon. That's where I sell all of the books at. So I'm the only Terry Mixon author selling space opera there. So I'm pretty easy to find. Yeah, just look up the space opera charts, dudes. And just look at the charts or go to terrymixon.com and you can find the listing of books there. Absolutely. So thanks for being on the show, Terry, once again. It's been awesome. And as for this podcast, you can find us at mentalcellarpublications.com, at least until I can get a website up with a slightly less confusing name. I'm working on it, folks. And you can find my books on Amazon.com. Currently, they're exclusive as well. You can read them in Kindle Unlimited if you want. And actually, I almost prefer it with some of them, especially that one I mentioned earlier, Forces of Empire: Origin of Storms, is the first book in the Forces of Empire series, and then the other ones are probably coming up later this year or early next year. I've got a lot of epic fantasy to get there first. But that book is a big fat horde of words and story, and I really enjoyed it. It's a really big old epic space opera, and I may emphasize the gigantic size of it. So even if you don't have another book to read in the same series, it is worth 2 books as far as its size. Anyway, then I got my epic fantasies, Demon Scroll and 10 Liars. And honestly, I could do Pimp all day because I have a lot of little stuff that's still out there, but thanks for listening, everybody. I'm not going to hold your ears any longer. Have a good one. Talk to you next week.